Well, what is the right move for me right now, Lance?
Hey, Neville.
What if we told you that the Mortal Kombat movie you grew up loving was full of secrets most fans never noticed? From unexpected casting choices to behind-the-scenes chaos, there's a lot more happening off-screen than you think. Some of the most iconic moments weren't planned, some of your favorite lines have surprising origins, and a few scenes almost didn't even happen the way you remember. Join us as we get into the untold stories, hidden details, and crazy behind-the-scenes moments that make Mortal Kombat even more legendary than you realized. Chaos on set. The fight scenes in Mortal Kombat look clean, sharp, and carefully planned, but the reality on set was much rougher. One of the biggest surprises for fans is how often the actors themselves handled the action rather than relying on stunt doubles. The filmmakers wanted the fights to feel real and recognizable to fans of the games, so they pushed the cast to perform as much as possible on their own. That decision raised the stakes immediately. Some actors had strong martial arts backgrounds, while others had little to no experience, creating a wide skill gap that made rehearsals intense and unpredictable. Because of that gap, choreography often broke down during filming. Moves that worked in practice didn't always land the same way on camera. Actors slipped on dusty sets, mistimed kicks, or came dangerously close to hitting each other for real. A single punch or spin kick might take several tries to get right, not because it looked bad, but because someone lost balance or reacted a second too late. These repeated takes weren't just tiring. They increased the risk of injury. Bruises were common, muscles were strained, and costumes tore during action. Ironically, some of the most perfect fight moments fans admire today came from real accidents. When something went wrong but looked powerful on screen, the director often kept it rather than stopping to reset. No one felt this pressure more than Robin Shou, who played Liu Kang. His daily routine was brutal. Training sessions often lasted for hours, combining martial arts drills, stretching, and repeated fight rehearsals. It wasn't far off from preparing for an actual tournament. One of the hardest scenes to film was Liu Kang's famous bicycle kick. To make it work, Shou was suspended on wires while pumping his legs in midair. The move looks effortless, but in reality, it puts extreme strain on his core and legs. The scene took hours to shoot, and by the end, Shou could barely stand straight. He later joked that half his time on set was spent either training or icing some new injury. Liu Kang's realism came at a real cost, but it's also why the character feels so grounded and believable. Costumes made everything harder. Scorpion's mask limited breathing and visibility, making fast movements risky. Sub-Zero's layered outfit trapped heat under the lights, turning each fight into a test of endurance. Movement was restricted, sweat built up quickly, and actors struggled to stay focused while overheating. Comfort always came second to appearance, because the filmmakers wanted the characters to look exactly like their game versions. Then there was Goro. Instead of using CGI, the production relied on a massive animatronic puppet controlled by several people at once. Arms, head, and facial movements all required coordination. The system frequently malfunctioned. Arms broke, movements froze, and entire filming days stopped while repairs were made. At one point, a limb literally fell off mid-scene, sending the cast into laughter. And that was only the beginning of the chaos still to come. Casting shockers. Looking back now, it feels impossible to picture Mortal Kombat with a different cast. But the movie came dangerously close to becoming something very different. Many of the roles fans now consider perfect were the result of last-minute changes, rejected offers, and unexpected choices that reshaped the entire film. The most famous near miss is Johnny Cage. The character was originally modeled after Jean-Claude Van Damme, right down to the cocky attitude and movie star swagger. Because of that, the filmmakers seriously wanted Van Damme for the role. Talks went far enough that it wasn't just a rumor. But Van Damme chose to star in Street Fighter instead, believing it would be the better career move. That decision closed the door on him as Johnny Cage and opened it for Lyndon Ashby. Rather than copying Van Damme, Ashby made Cage his own. He leaned into humor, ego, and charm without trying to match anyone else's fighting style. His version of Cage felt natural, confident, and surprisingly likable, which helped the character stand out. Raiden's casting caused even more confusion. When Christopher Lambert was announced as the Thunder God, fans were baffled. His accent didn't match what many expected, and visually, he was an unusual choice. But Lambert didn't treat the role lightly. He was genuinely excited about the project and even paid some of his own travel costs to be part of the shoot. There were other names discussed, including Sean Connery. But the final direction changed when Lambert leaned into a lighter, playful take on Raiden. That tone was not in the original plan. Raiden was expected to be more serious, but Lambert's relaxed delivery gave the character warmth and personality that stuck with audiences. Sonya Blade's casting changed almost overnight. Cameron Diaz was originally cast and had already started training. Then she broke her wrist and had to leave the project. Bridget Wilson stepped in with only days to prepare. She had almost no time to train properly and had to learn fight scenes while filming was already underway. Instead of holding her back, that pressure helped shape her performance. Wilson's movements weren't polished, but they felt real. Her Sonya came across as tough, stubborn, and determined, not flawless. That raw energy ended up matching the character perfectly. Liu Kang also wasn't a guaranteed role for Robin Shou. Studios initially looked at more established names and other martial artists. Shou himself thought his chances were slim. When he was cast, it surprised even him. What made the difference was his emotional grounding. Shou didn't just fight well, he gave Liu Kang heart. His calm presence helped balance the film's louder characters and shaped the movie's overall tone. Shang Tsung might be the biggest casting win of all. Cary Hiroyuki Tagawa was not the first choice, and without him, the villain could have been forgettable. Tagawa transformed the role through improvisation. He played Shang Tsung with confidence and menace, staying in character even when cameras weren't rolling. That commitment made his lines memorable, and fans are still quoting him decades later. Finally, budget limits forced creative casting. Several masked ninjas were played by the same performers. With quick costume changes, one actor became multiple fighters. Each character still felt unique, and most audiences never noticed. And coming up next, we'll uncover the mistakes fans thought were planned all along. Flawed but famous. Many of the fight scenes in Mortal Kombat feel precise and carefully timed, but a surprising number of those moments were never meant to happen the way they did. Behind the scenes, the line between choreography and chaos was thin, and sometimes it disappeared completely. What fans see as perfect execution often came from real mistakes that the filmmakers chose not to fix. One of the most common issues was accidental contact. The actors were performing their own fight scenes, often at full speed, and protective padding was minimal. Real punches, kicks, and body hits are landed more often than viewers realize. In the moment, these hits were painful and unplanned, but on camera, they looked powerful and believable. Instead of stopping the scene and starting over, the director often decided to keep rolling if the impact looked good. These moments added weight to the fights, making them feel more intense than carefully staged movements ever could. There were also cases where actors were knocked out of frame entirely. A kick would send someone rolling farther than expected, or a fall would take them off camera, in the wrong direction. Normally, this would mean resetting the shot, but time was limited, and reshoots were expensive. If the action still made sense visually, the scene stayed. Audiences assumed it was intentional, reading it as part of the choreography. In reality, it was just someone losing balance at the wrong moment. The director's decision to keep these scenes wasn't careless. It was practical. The production didn't have the luxury of endless takes. Schedules were tight, locations were rented for a limited time, and the cast was already physically exhausted. Resetting a complex fight scene meant repeating long setups, lighting adjustments, and risky stunts. If a mistake looked natural and didn't break the scene, it was often considered good enough. This mindset carried over to moments when the crew didn't yell, "Cut." Sometimes an actor would react differently than planned, take an extra step, or deliver a movement that wasn't in the original choreography. Instead of stopping everything, the camera kept rolling. Those small changes often made the action feel more spontaneous. Improvisation slowly became part of the movie's final shape, even if it wasn't planned that way from the start. Limited budgets played a huge role in this approach. Unlike modern films that rely heavily on digital fixes, Mortal Kombat had to get things right in camera. There was no easy way to erase mistakes later. This forced the filmmakers to embrace what happened during filming, even when it wasn't perfect. Ironically, those imperfections helped sell the reality of the fights. Characters looked tired, movements felt slightly uneven, and reactions felt genuine because they were. The chaos also improved authenticity. The fighters didn't look like polished performers executing rehearsed routines. They looked like people struggling, reacting, and adjusting in the middle of combat. That raw feeling matched the tone of the game, where fights were fast, unpredictable, and sometimes messy. The audience never knew they were watching mistakes because those moments blended naturally into the action. Over time, fans praised these scenes for their intensity, not knowing the truth behind them. What was actually happening was a mix of endurance, stress, and quick decisions made on set. The film didn't succeed because everything went according to plan. It succeeded because the cast and crew knew when not to fight the chaos. And next up, we'll dig into the hidden details fans missed, even after watching the movie dozens of times. Secrets revealed. At first glance, Mortal Kombat seems straightforward. Fighters enter a tournament and battle it out. But beneath the surface, the film is packed with small details that many fans missed, even after multiple rewatches. These hidden choices were carefully placed to reward fans of the games, especially those who knew the source material well. One of the biggest areas where this shows up is in the fight choreography. Several moves were lifted directly from the video games and recreated almost exactly, shot for shot. Liu Kang's bicycle kick is the most famous example, but it wasn't the only one. Certain punches, spins, and finishing motions were designed to match the games, rather than follow realistic fighting styles. The filmmakers cared more about authenticity to the game than real-world accuracy. To casual viewers, these moves just looked flashy. To gamers, they were instantly recognizable, even if they couldn't always explain why. Scorpion's most iconic line is another detail many fans never questioned, when he yells, "Get over here!" In the film, it sounds exactly like it does in the arcade games. That's because it is. The voice was not recorded by the actor on set. Instead, the film used the original audio recording from Ed Boon, one of the creators of Mortal Kombat. This was a deliberate choice. Using the same voice connected the movie directly to the arcade experience. For longtime fans, hearing that exact sound was a clear sign that the filmmakers understood and respected the game. Johnny Cage's ego also hides a clever joke. In one scene, he casually signs an autograph for a fan. The photo he signs looks like a standard movie prop, but it's actually a real promotional image of Lyndon Ashby, the actor playing Cage. This wasn't an accident. The filmmakers wanted to blur the line between Cage and the actor portraying him. It reinforced Cage's personality as a self-obsessed movie star, while also giving sharp-eyed viewers something extra to notice. Sound design is another area where hidden effort paid off. The bone-crunching punches and kicks didn't come from a typical sound library. Foley artists created those sounds manually using everyday items. Meat, vegetables, and household objects were smashed, twisted, and snapped to create the sharp, painful sounds heard during fights. Celery was especially useful for simulating bones breaking. These choices made the action feel heavy and physical. Even without showing graphic detail, the sound effects told the audience that the hits were meant to hurt. Shang Tsung's presence also included details that weren't written into the script. Cary Hiroyuki Tagawa often adjusted his line delivery on the spot. He slowed down certain words, changed his tone, and added pauses to increase tension. Even when the cameras weren't rolling, he stayed in character. He would speak in Shang Tsung's voice and move around the set in a way that unsettled other cast members. Some actors admitted it was genuinely uncomfortable, but it helped them react more naturally on screen. That commitment is a big reason his performance still stands out. The background sets also contained quiet nods to the games. Some temple scenes included design elements inspired by the Living Forest stage, while other locations referenced the pit arena. These weren't exact recreations. The filmmakers avoided copying the games too closely because of budget and practical limits. Instead, they included shapes, textures, and layouts that felt familiar without being obvious. Hardcore fans noticed these details, while casual viewers simply saw interesting environments. All of these choices worked together to make the movie feel deeper than it first appeared. The film wasn't just copying the games on the surface, it was quietly speaking to fans who knew where to look. And next, we'll uncover how the filming conditions pushed the cast even harder than the fights themselves. Brutal shoot days. When people think about Mortal Kombat, they usually picture intense fights, loud music, and larger-than-life characters. What they don't picture are the difficult filming conditions that shaped nearly every scene. Much of the movie was shot on location rather than in controlled studio environments, and that choice brought a long list of challenges the cast and crew had to deal with every single day. Outdoor locations meant unpredictable weather. Some days were extremely hot, while others brought sudden rain or strong humidity. These changes affected everything, from the actors' energy levels to how the sets looked on camera. Sweat became a constant issue, especially during fight scenes. Actors had to repeat physically demanding moves while trying to stay focused under harsh conditions. If the weather shifted suddenly, scenes had to be paused or adjusted, which added stress and ate into the already tight schedule. Lighting was another major struggle. In a studio, lights can be placed exactly where they're needed. On location, the sun doesn't cooperate. Shadows moved constantly, and clouds could ruin continuity between shots. The crew had to work fast to capture scenes before the lighting changed too much. This often meant filming during narrow time windows and pushing actors to perform at full intensity with very little rest. Environmental stress didn't stop there. Insects were a frequent problem, especially during outdoor shoots. Mosquitoes and other bugs swarmed the cast between takes. Actors tried to stay in character while swatting insects off their faces and arms. Combined with heat and heavy costumes, this made even simple scenes uncomfortable. None of this shows up on screen, but it wore people down over time. The cast itself was mostly young and eager, but that came with risks. Safety standards in the 1990s were not what they are today, and Mortal Kombat relied almost entirely on practical effects. There was no CGI to fix mistakes or erase wires later. What happened on set is what ended up in the movie. That meant stunts had to be performed carefully, but also quickly. There wasn't much room for error. Fight scenes were especially dangerous because actors were doing their own stunts. Protective gear was minimal, and many moves involved real jumps, falls, and physical contact. If someone slipped or landed wrong, there was no digital safety net to soften the mistake later. Injuries could delay filming, so actors often pushed through pain to keep things moving. This pressure made every mistake riskier. A wrong step didn't just ruin a shot, it could send someone to the hospital. That reality forced the cast to stay alert and disciplined, even when they were exhausted. Long hours made it harder to stay sharp, but the schedule didn't slow down. The crew had to capture scenes efficiently or risk going over budget. Despite all this, the cast kept going. Part of it was determination. Many of them were early in their careers and wanted to prove themselves. Another part was belief in the project. They knew they were working on something different, something that mattered to fans of the game. That motivation helped them push through conditions that were far from comfortable. The lack of modern technology also meant the movie relied on real effort. Sweat, strain, and fatigue weren't faked. They were real, and they show up in subtle ways on screen. Characters look tired after fights because the actors actually were. Movements feel heavy because the muscles are already worn down. These details gave the movie a grounded feel, even when the story was over the top. The filming conditions were tough, but they shaped the final product in ways audiences never noticed consciously. What looked like style was often survival. And next, we'll explore how critics and audiences saw two completely different movies at the same time. Critics got it wrong. When Mortal Kombat arrived in theaters, critics and audiences seemed to watch two completely different movies. Reviews focused heavily on what the film lacked, instead of what it was trying to deliver. This disconnect shaped the movie's early reputation and explains why critics and fans reacted so differently. Most critics judged Mortal Kombat using traditional movie standards. They expected deep character arcs, complex dialogue, and a tightly layered story. From that perspective, the film came across as thin and uneven, but Mortal Kombat was never trying to be that kind of movie. It wasn't built around long conversations or emotional monologues. It was built around fights, momentum, and visual excitement. Critics wanted a structured drama, but the movie was designed as a tournament experience. Another major issue was the arcade-style structure. The film moves from fight to fight with minimal explanation, much like the game itself. Characters are introduced quickly, battles begin suddenly, and outcomes are clear. For gamers, this felt natural. For critics unfamiliar with the source material, it felt rushed. They mistook simplicity for laziness and missed the fact that the movie was following the rhythm of an arcade cabinet, not a novel. Tone was also misunderstood. Mortal Kombat mixes seriousness with camp in a very specific way. It takes its world seriously, but allows the characters to have fun inside it. Critics often saw this as an inconsistency. Fans saw it as a balance. The film knew when to be dramatic and when to be playful, and that tone matched how the games felt in arcades. Critics expected realism. The movie aimed for excitement. Audiences, on the other hand, instantly understood what the film was offering. Many viewers had spent hours standing in crowded arcades, watching matches over someone's shoulder, waiting for their turn to play. That communal experience carried into theaters. People cheered during fights, reacted to familiar moves, and recognized characters immediately. The movie felt like a shared event, not a quiet viewing experience. Music played a huge role in this reaction. The opening theme alone set expectations. It told the audience this was about energy and spectacle. The film didn't slow down to explain everything, and it didn't need to. Viewers weren't there for realism. They were there for momentum. That focus made the movie fun to watch again and again. Repeat viewings mattered because fans picked up on more details each time, from fight choreography to background nods to the games. As the audience response grew, the cast started to notice. Actors were surprised by how strongly fans connected to the film. At conventions, they were met with crowds quoting lines, asking about fight scenes, and sharing memories of seeing the movie for the first time. What started as a job quickly became something bigger. Certain quotes became part of everyday fan language. Lines like, "Your soul is mine," weren't just movie dialogue anymore. They became shorthand for the entire experience. Actors realized that their performances had left a lasting mark. Even years later, fans still associated them with their characters, sometimes more than with any other role they played. This reaction helped the cast understand the movie's real success. It wasn't about reviews or awards, it was about connection. The film gave fans exactly what they wanted at the right time. Critics may have missed that because they were looking for something else. Mortal Kombat didn't fail to meet expectations. It met different ones. It spoke directly to its audience, and that audience listened. And next, we'll look at the sound and energy that helped lock those memories in place. Unstoppable soundtrack. Before any fight scene began, Mortal Kombat made its intentions clear through sound. The opening track, Techno Syndrome, didn't slowly introduce the movie or set a quiet mood. It hit immediately, loud and direct, demanding attention from the first second. That choice mattered. The music told the audience exactly what kind of experience they were about to have. The theme worked so well because it matched the pace and attitude of the game. It was fast, aggressive, and repetitive in a way that kept energy high. There was no emotional buildup or subtle tension. The beat pushed forward constantly, just like an arcade match that starts the moment you press a button. Viewers didn't need context to understand it. The music alone created excitement. Before a single punch landed, the soundtrack had already set the tone. It signaled that this movie wasn't aiming for realism or deep explanation. It was about movement, rhythm, and spectacle. That helped the audience adjust their expectations early. Instead of waiting for the story to slow down, viewers leaned into the experience and enjoyed the ride. Opening weekend reactions showed how effective this was. As soon as the theme started, audiences reacted out loud. People cheered, nodded along, and recognized the sound instantly. For fans of the game, it felt familiar. For newcomers, it felt powerful. The energy spread through theaters, turning screenings into shared experiences rather than quiet viewings. Throughout the film, the soundtrack continued to drive momentum. Fight scenes felt faster and more intense because the music never let the pace drop. Even when dialogue was minimal, the sound kept scenes moving forward. The movie trusted its music to carry emotion, and that trust paid off. The soundtrack didn't support the film quietly. It led it. And that bold choice helped make Mortal Kombat unforgettable from the very first beat. And next, we'll explore why careful rewatches reveal even more hidden surprises. Hidden gems. One of the biggest reasons Mortal Kombat keeps fans coming back is how much is easy to miss on a first viewing. The movie moves quickly, with constant action and rapid cuts, so small details often go unnoticed. When you watch it again, those details start to emerge. Background visual gags appear in quiet moments or wide shots, never pointed out, but perfectly timed for those paying attention. Spotting them feels like discovering a hidden layer of the movie. Subtle gestures between characters also stand out on repeat viewings. Quick glances, minor nods, or brief reactions add emotional depth without slowing the pace. Many of these moments came from actors responding naturally rather than following strict choreography. At first, they seem insignificant, but over time, they reveal the personalities and relationships of the characters in ways the script alone doesn't show. Improvised reactions further enhance the experience. Because not every scene was reset after small mistakes, genuine responses were captured on camera. A startled look, a step back, or a slight pause that wasn't planned became part of the final film. These small, unplanned moments create authenticity, making the fights feel real and dynamic even decades later. The movie also benefits from embracing controlled chaos. Timing isn't always perfect, moves occasionally slip, and sequences can feel messy. But that's intentional in how it mirrors the energy of the games. The unpredictability makes each fight feel alive and keeps the audience engaged. Unlike overly polished productions, Mortal Kombat thrives on the imperfections that make every viewing slightly different. With every watch, fans notice more of these hidden gems. New gestures, improvised moments, and small visual jokes continue to appear, keeping the film fresh and exciting. And that's a wrap on all the behind-the-scenes chaos, casting surprises, and hidden details that made Mortal Kombat the movie we still love today. From busted costumes to improvised lines, every element shows just how much grit and creativity went into bringing the game to life. If you enjoyed diving into these secrets, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe for more deep dives, and turn on notifications so you never miss the next round of hidden movie magic.